I'll stop there. So, right? It's a novelization of my experiences with Quentin Tarantino on the psychic frontier. And so, what I'll say, right, and this is why inevitably he came clean, right, is that while I have a bunch of books on geometry, and we're going to dig more into that after I finish with the novel, because I have 2 more essays I have to write. I have to write on geometry and on language, right? And so I have a bunch of books about geometry that we're gonna make it all happen, right? I'm bringing everyone up, right? That's the point, right? But what I'll say is that inevitably, of course, he came clean, right? Because, right, he saw me reference nothing, right? That everything that you see here, right, just like God. That's the point, right? All of it, with the exception of Baphomet. Right? This is a dry point etching, so that took quite a lot, right? But this, right? This, right? All of it. This, right? So, right? During this time, right? The time that I just read on, right? Quentin and Daniela were laughing their fucking asses off. Right? Ha 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 ha. How do I know that his wife's involved? Right, that's a good question. It's a good question. I suppose that really, I don't. I do acknowledge that. Right? That it could all be him. Right? That it's a sick intellectual exercise within him. However, right? It's backwards. Right? That these are the tactics that he likes to do. I was just thinking about this. Maybe it was in the passages that I was reading yesterday. Right? That, oh yeah. I remember. I was reading something about it was me talking about Willow. Like what Willow likes to do. Right? That Willow wanted me, right? So, okay, when you understand the mind, right? That you can express your mind in a myriad of ways, right? Up to and including, right? Right? And this is what I talk about in my essay on magic, right? Inducing, right? Someone through remote viewing into sexual lust, right? That's anyone can do it. I can do it. Quentin does it. Right? Can anyone do it? No. But, right? It's like music, you know? But my point is that she's like okay, so I was on the street in New York, right? And so Quentin, like I talked about Quentin to this guy, right? And he used that, it's all bullshit. There's no daughter, you know, but he acted like his daughter was upset because I was talking about her, right? And they, right, while I was sleeping outside of the church, right, brought me, right, to sexual lust, right? And so what I was talking about in the passage that I was reading yesterday is that I can do that too, right? That's, like, it's easy, right? Right, and so my point is that Quentin, right, that these are the games that Quentin plays, right, with the women in his life, right, that he puts them on men, right, and then, right, he makes them come with his mind, and he says, you're fucking me, you're not fucking them. Totally legit, 100% authorized, right, you can absolutely be done. 100%. Right? And so, right? This is what they were doing to me for months. For months, I never touched myself. Right? They failed. Burying me in sexual lust. Right? And it wasn't until, right, I was led to believe that his daughter is a fucking skank, right? Who wants to torture me, right? Who uses, right, her psychic telepathy, right, to possess men's minds so that they'll pay her to keep having sex with her. right? And of course it's bullshit, right? But I trusted him, right? And so this touches on the thing that I was talking about in my previous video, right? That now he's put all of that, right, on his little girl, right? That she's, right, like, boom, it's done. It's done. And I can do something, right? I know what time it is, right? But this section that we're reading through right now, it's, right? He tells me in due time, not a lot of time, just a handful of days. Right? He has no daughter. It's all bullshit, right? Because the things that I was doing, right, as far as trapping energy inside of these are vortexes of plasma, right? And so you can conjure those in your mind, right? And you can project them, right? And so this is the game, right? This is why I say I can do it without debasing myself. Right? That everything that he does is base, right? So he reveals in his novel, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the novel, right, that Charles Manson communicates with Pussycat through telepathy, right? Quentin Tarantino is Charles Manson, Brad Pitt is Cliff Booth, right? And now, my point is that now, right, that now it's not funny. That now it's, right, I trusted them all that time, all the way through, 4 whole months, essentially. And then, right, I started remote viewing on January the 1st, on New Year's Eve, December 31st, right? And, right, they had their jokes, they made a bunch of fun of me, for sure. They made me seem insane to all my heroes, right? But I can't stress this enough, right? That now it's just ugly. Now it's just evil, right? That I'm that I perpetually, right? And so in that way, right, I guess he got what he wanted, I guess, it's really sad. It's really sad how fucking depraved it is, right? That until I see someone in person, right? Until I see, right, his agency, right? Until I see Quentin himself, right? Someone from Sony Pictures, I have no choice but to assume that he wants me to die. Right? That he doesn't, right? That he didn't do all this to say, oh, haha, I gotcha, because I'm all the way in his mind too. Right? I'm all the way in his wife's mind. Right? That those things that he does to her, right, while she's with other men, now I've done it to her. Right? And so is that, I'm supposed to believe that you don't mind that persisting? Right? Therefore, right? So, pray for me, pray for Quentin. Got 2 pieces of music. Suppose I'll stop. I'm just rambling. Right? There's no hope for either of us psychologically if we don't come together, if we don't reconcile. See what's good in your life, right? Before I go on and on, right? How do Quentin and I do this? Right? What do I mean when I say these are vortexes of plasma, right? Oh, that, right? I mean, I'm reading this book right now. I'm going to read a passage from it. Matter consists of atoms of ether, more or less strongly held together. The essence of matter is one single substance. Matter is form and force at once. And form is force circumscribed and condensed. Force is form indefinite, diffused. The universe is but a harmonious collection of forces. Its constituent principles, nothing but dynamic points. Force is will. Its type and fountain is spirit. Spirit is the sole and single source of power. Spirit is God. Right? And so this book's from the 19th century. Obviously, no one says that there's aether anymore, ether. Right? But right, he's really touching on the heart of the matter. Right? That clairvoyance is an understanding. that Quentin doesn't know anything about, right? That space and matter are equal opposites of each other. Pribram and Baum's holographic model espouses that within every cubic centimeter of space, distributed evenly in terms of volumetric pressure, in terms of information, lies the potential for all manifested reality, right? So diffused throughout that, right? Here's one example, right? Compounded 40 tetrahedra, right? All of the geometric diagrams behind me that you see are all further examples of it, right? Diffused within that is a non-local conscious field, right? Which has no personality, right? It has no gender, right? Commonly referred to as deity or God, right? Which is not a creature, it's an abstract intellectual quality or principle. So the divine light of deity breathes through the quantum manifold, right? Which exists perpetually in a state of rest in every cubic centimeter of space. And as it breathes, it exerts pressure upon it, collapsing it and mutating it, engendering electric resistance until the friction against itself is so pregnant, right, and dense that it can no longer remain in inert space and erupts into incandescence as matter. First as photons of light, chemical elements, atmospheric strata, mineral, vegetable, animal, man. Right? Man is the end of evolution. Right? I mean that in a spiritual sense, not in a Darwinian, reductionist, materialistic sense, right? That life is the unfolding of a divine plan, right? Which reaches its zenith at man, because man is the only creature in creation which can have cognizable understanding to such an attenuated degree, right, that he or she can offer a sincere reflection upon the divine origin of all of creation and hold it within their heart, within their mind, and project it, boom, onto the firmament of space through action, through charity, right? All instances of clairvoyance and psychic phenomenon, telepathy, right? Telekinesis, psychokinesis, thaumaturgy, remote viewing, right? Healing the sick, right? All derive from the mind of the adept, right? Being so refined, right? That the individual is so in control of their faculties, right? That they can harmonize the atomic structure of the material in their brain with the atomic structure of the disparate locale that they seek to watch, vivify, or destroy. And so, right, once harmonized, right, the highest levels of the adept sees the adept behaving like God, right? A thought is a force, and philosophy should be an energy, right? That through intention, through will, right, you send out an electrical coagulation, which is a neuronal firing of the neurons in your brain, right? That if understood properly, right, can find its locale and manipulate and transmute and fracture the hologram of the target to either heal it, strengthen it, or destroy it. Quentin Tarantino is a powerful psychic clairvoyant who's gotten his jollies for his entire working career, right? Remote viewing people as the psychic voyeur, right? And occupying the minds of the actors and actresses in his films, right? I represent the only actor that didn't bend to his psychic whim, and now he's touching on real, ugly, palpable black magic evil, and so we're talking about it every day, right? It's my fault that everything didn't go the way that it was supposed to, as far as his expectations, right? But I acknowledge that, I own it, right? But what it is now, right? What it is now, right? It's just evil, and now everyone around him insulates a high evil.